What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, Corviknight has finally received the buff that it needed to actually be kind of a meta-relevant Pokemon here. It's a Pokemon that for the past couple of seasons I've always wanted to make work, but it's always been such a slow pick. But with the addition of Air Cutter into its moveset, it potentially has what it takes to be a top meta contender. I'm going to pair it up today with Shadow Quagsire. The Mudboy Skarmory pairing in the past used to always be good, so Mudboy plus Corviknight I would assume would also be pretty good here, running Aqua Tail, Stone Edge, and Mudshot. And then finally, Cradily on the team to round out the coverage that we can have here. Gonna be running Acid, Rock Tomb, and Grass Knot. Let's get into the battles and see what Corviknight can do. Let's get right on into it here. We see Corviknight as our lead up against a Galarian Moltres, a bit of an unfavorable lead matchup here, but we're going to try to dance around this if we can. Our whole team is a little bit soft to this pick. I know Quagsire in the backline has Stone Edge as well as our Rock Tomb on our Cradily, and our opponent is staying in here for just a second. They're going to go for a fly. Are they going to swap out? No, they do stay in. Rock Tomb instantly thrown, trying to get a shield or maybe some good damage against this Pokemon. They do end up shielding it at this point. They actually swap into a Shadow Quagsire, a Pokemon that does not want to take a Grass Knot from us here, but they can go for an Aqua Tail, and our Fast Food pressure is almost non-existent against this Pokemon. But I'm going to go straight for the Grass Knot. Our opponent might expect a Rock Tomb bait. Either way, I'm going to full send our opponent, going to no shield, one-shotting the Shadow Quagsire. What's going to come in now? We can likely reach another Rock Tomb against something in the backline, but let's see what gets brought in. It is that Galarian Moltres here. We're going to reach for the Rock Tomb. We just barely can get it, but our opponent here at the final second also gets to a fly. I think at this point, this Rock Tomb could be pretty important to reach. I'm going to shield. We don't get shield KO'd. Not quite at 1 HP there. Rock Tomb coming through. Does this knock them out, or will they let it go? They do shield, and at this point, while Corviknight is not a good matchup here, we actually almost certainly wall the energy they have, unless they're running Payback. Our opponent, though, swaps out into their Diggersby. I bank all the energy we have. Shadow Quagsire comes in, and 2 Aqua Tails will be enough to put them basically into the red, maybe even knock them out if we don't get debuffed. Our opponent going for that Scorching Sands. Do we get that attack drop? Unfortunately for us, we do get debuffed here, but with the amount of energy our Corviknight has, as well as our HP there, it doesn't really matter if we knock them out with this Pokemon. Our Corviknight should be able to close out the backline. Yeah, 1 Aqua Tail there after that debuff, not quite enough to 2-shot them, but I already have the next one ready to go. We're going to force another Scorching Sands out of our opponent here. We do reach that next Aqua Tail, but the third one not quite reached before they can reach their next Scorching Sands. This will knock us out, but we can knock out the Diggersby with an Air Cutter, and then go for some Air Cutters against that Galarian Moltres later on, and we should be in a very good spot. Air Cutter coming through. Do we get that boost? There's a 30% chance every time you throw this move that you get an attack boost. We don't get it here, but I don't think that really matters at this point. Corviknight is way too healthy. Honestly, even a Payback from this range, probably not enough to knock us out. Air Cutter coming through, not quite enough to knock it out. There's that boost here that we were talking about. But yeah, I mean, Air Cutter, you can see, not the strongest move in the game, but the amount that you can spam out this attack is why Corviknight is just a little bit better to use now. Air Cutter number 3 being thrown here. This should get the KO, especially after that attack boost. Down goes Galarian Moltres. Corviknight closing out that game. Next matchup, Corviknight up against a Greninja, a fantastic lead matchup for us. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like fantastic as in one of the best things we could see, more so that we get to avoid this with our Shadow Quagsire in the backline. And honestly, now that we have a good move that we can pace to pretty quickly here, we can throw these Air Cutters and not just get incredibly outpaced by this Greninja. They go for that first Hydro Cannon. I go for the Air Cutter here after the fact, trying to get a shield back if I can. Do we get that boost? Our opponent would not want us to get that boost there. We don't get it, though, luckily for them. And in comes their next attack against us. I don't want to get knocked out by a Hydro Cannon. They bait a Night Slash, which is also a good play. But at this point, I have my next Air Cutter here. I can throw it before their next Night Slash will be thrown. This move will knock him out if it goes through, but our opponent doesn't want to get KO'd just yet. There's that boost, so at this point, I think I'm kind of fine shielding my Corviknight. I should be able to go for another attack here against them. If they want a double shield, they can be my guess, but if they don't, then I likely get a boosted attack against something in the backline. It comes an Air Cutter here. Our opponent, are they going to double shield? No, they opt to let their Greninja go down. Corviknight at this point is going to start spamming out as many attacks as we can. We have a boosted attack here, potentially a Payback. We throw the Air Cutter bait. Our opponent going for the shield. Can we reach the next Payback? Our opponent is just barely able to farm us down before the Payback, so we opt for an Air Cutter. At the very least, this is nice chip damage, although Jellicent's energy in the backline could be a little bit tricky to take down. I know that 2 Shadow Balls will come close to knocking out a Cradily here. In comes that first attack. What is it going to be? Our opponent does go for the full-on Shadow Ball, but Cradily just bulky enough to survive 2 of those. And in the backline, a Clodsire, one of the best things that our Shadow Quagsire can see right now. All I need is 2 Aqua Tails to knock him out. Mudshot is super effective against them as well. And once we can neutralize this Pokemon, our Cradily should be able to throw the Grass Knot into that Jellicent later on in this game. In comes that next Earthquake here from our opponent. I don't want to take a Sludge Bomb, so I'll throw after 5 more Mudshots here. Our opponent does not opt for the CMP, but that's fine. I have enough energy to threaten a Stone Edge, potentially, against their Jellicent in the backline. In comes that Jellicent once again. I can go for the Stone Edge, but our opponent very smart on their counts. They throw right before I'm able to reach that next Stone Edge. Cradily going to come back in here, though, and we saw that we can survive 2 Shadow Balls from full HP. All I need is this Grass Knot to land, and they don't quite have the move just yet. Grass Knot will knock out this Jellicent, and Cradily able to close out the backline. Corviknight set up a nice little endgame scenario there for our Pokemon, and we're able to pick up the win. Next game, okay, that's a bit of a tricky Pokemon for our entire team to see. We have super effective damage on our 3 Pokemon here, right? Payback on Corviknight. We also have Rock Tomb and Stone Edge in the backline, but our fast move pressure is basically non-existent against this Pokemon. I'm not going to bait. I'm going to go straight for the Payback. I want to get shields if I can. I guess now I'm saying I should have baited because they did shield that attack up here. Was almost expecting them to call the bait themselves, but no, I guess at this point we're going to have to go for the no shield on this attack. They go for the Shadow Ball, so they do knock us out there. Unfortunately, I tried to call a bait from them, and they come in with a Blastoise into our Cradily, so, I mean, while we're not in a great spot right now, we could be in a worse one here. Although I do let a full rollout come through. Not great timing by me. Grass Knot being super effective into the Blastoise doesn't quite get the one-shot, but we should be able to go for a one-shield farm down. I'm going to shield the first, just in case they do have Ice Beam or something crazy like that. In comes a Hydro Cannon. They do have a second Hydro Cannon ready to go, but I don't think they have enough HP to get to a third here. In comes our next Hydro. I can survive this pretty comfortably. Cradily will get a full farm down, and the energy that we have on this Pokemon is hopefully going to be enough for us to win the backline. In comes that Drifblim. Once again, we have a Rock Tomb ready to go. And if they're coming in Drifblim against our Cradily, I'm hoping that Cradily has quite a bit more play in this game. They're going to go for an Icy Wind right before my next Rock Tomb. That will lower my attack stat, likely let them survive my next Rock Tomb. But I think once we can get this Pokemon out of the way, I'm going to be in a much better spot. In comes our Rock Tomb. Is this enough to knock them out here? I have to hope that it is. Our opponent survives. I swap into Shadow Quagsire. They swap immediately into their Azumarill as well. And at this point, I have to hope that Quagsire has enough damage in the tank to not only knock out this Azumarill, but potentially get to an Aqua Tail against that Drifblim. We're going to go for a Stone Edge number 1 here against the Azu. It is not quite enough to 2-shot. I know in the Zero Shield matchup, they can just barely survive 2 moves and get off 2 moves of their own, which means Cradily might have to go for a fast move down to win this game. In comes our Stone Edge here in just a second. They're at their next attack right now. Can they get knocked out here? A bad Azu might get knocked out. Stone Edge coming through. They do survive the attack here. And now down goes my Shadow Quagsire. I have to invest in my Cradily. I have to hope that the fast move pressure is enough to win us this game. A couple of acids do actually knock out the Drifblim. One more acid should be enough for this Azumarill. Cradily getting a little endgame sweep there too. Love to see it. GG to our opponent. Next game is a Shadow Giratina in the lead. And this is a little bit of an awkward Pokemon for our whole team. The worst thing about this is I know Giratina has a lot of neutral pressure against us, and if they want to start going for Ancient Powers, if they have that, there's a chance they can boost against us, but I also know we have Payback, right? We can threaten shields back from them. They do have Ancient Power. They're going to try to go for a boost. They say swap an Azumarill here, and our Cradily is more than happy to get aligned in this matchup. I'm going to shield the first move. I know it's likely going to be an Ice Beam coming through, and I don't want to take an Ice Beam if I can help it, at least not before I get a debuff through against them. In comes our Grass Knot here. This move will get quite a bit of damage against this Azumarill, but I think they can survive it pretty comfortably. They do no shield, and while I can outpace them here to the next Rock Tomb, I will have to throw energy if I don't want to take this next Ice Beam. Rock Tomb being thrown right now. Do we see a shield from this Azumarill? In comes the Rock Tomb. Down goes Azum. So down goes one of the more annoying Pokemon our Quagsire might be able to see. And we see the final Pokemon revealed as a Corviknight. I can no-shield this attack. That was a very quick throw by our opponent, likely just an air cutter. We survive very easily. We go for the Rock Tomb ourselves to try to debuff them and get a little bit of chip damage against them if possible. Rock Tomb coming through does do about 40% of their HP. Giratina comes in itself, and at this point, I know that we have a nice way to win this game. Just shield this attack up, go for the chip damage with Rock Tomb. They Ancient Power, and they hit the boost. That might be a way to lose this game, actually. I thought this was going to be a guaranteed win as long as I could debuff this Giratina, but they got the attack and the defense boost after that. I go for the combo play with the Payback, hoping that at this point, they might expect me to go for the bait, but they shield up the Payback, and now this Giratina is looking so frightening for us. I don't know how we're going to win this game. I hope that Quagsire in the backline is going to be good enough for us to take the win later on. That boost really coming in clutch for our opponent right now. In comes their next attack. Ancient Power not going to knock us out thanks to the debuff to their attack that I got with that Rock Tomb, but they're still at neutral attack and +1 defense here. They're going to try their best to chip us down with these attacks. I know after that boost and after the debuff, they're still at neutral attack, so these are going to chip down quite a bit, and we're going to try our best to farm them all the way down if possible. We are just one Mudshot away from farming them down here. They reach a move at the last second. Is a Stone Edge enough to knock out this Corviknight? I have to hope that it is, or else I might just get Sand Attack down. Stone Edge being thrown against the Corviknight. Is this enough to knock them out? Stone Edge, not quite enough here, and our opponent Sand attacks us all the way down there. Unfortunately, that boost on that Giratina really unwound my game plan. Our opponent able to pick up the win that time. Next game is a Cradily in the lead. And I would love to tell you guys that this is a good matchup for Corviknight here, but as you're going to see, it's actually one of the worst matchups you could really imagine for a Steel and Flying type. For some reason, despite the fact that we are going to be a Steel-type Pokemon into something weak to Steel, we don't have any Steel-type damage. So I think the Cradillys actually win every single even shielding scenario. I'm going to just kind of dance around, though. I'm going to clear my debuff, come in with my Shadow Quagsire, knowing at this point that my opponent is almost certainly going to try to swap out at some point as well. I go for the Stone Edge. Our opponent is going to shield that up. I'm going to go for another Stone Edge here in just a second, and while this attack might not knock them out, it will put them deep into the yellow, maybe even close to the red. Stone Edge comes through. They are almost in the red at this point. 25% HP is reached by that Jellicent now, and since I know they have so much energy still left over on that Cradily, I do want to shield up my Quagsire if I can here. I try to go for a catch, doesn't quite work out in our favor. This Shadow Ball would knock us out if I don't go for the shield, so I will shield this up, overfarm just a little bit more energy here, and try our best to go for an Aqua Tail to knock out this Jellicent. They might go for the shield here, but I think they'd only have a Surf if they do. There's a chance I might be able to survive that. They do let that move go. I'm expecting the Cradily to come back in and potentially trying to CMP us on an Aqua Tail. What's going to happen? Our opponent thinking for just a second. I come in, or I rather see them come in with the Cradily. I go for the Aqua Tail instantly, trying to get any bit of chip damage that I can against this Pokemon. I swap out, go for the Air Cutter bait. This move would not knock him out. Even a Payback wouldn't knock him out, but I'm hoping that they're going to shield this attack up. They do shield. We get the boost, and that boost at this point going to counteract this attack drop that we're going to get here by this next Rock Tomb. So I guess at this point, it's going to even itself out. I'm going to try to go for the Payback, but I'm almost certain that this does not knock them out here. Corviknight, while it is going to be able to hit this attack, it's going to not have the biggest attack stat in the world. Cradily, a very bulky monster in this game. They do end up surviving, and now down goes my poor Corviknight, but I can get an Acid down here, potentially even a Mud Shot down. At this point, they've played kind of scared to my Quagsire, although it's not what I was expecting in the back lane. I thought maybe like a Fire type back there. No, it's just going to be a Shadow Jump Bluff, and while I am a little bit down on energy with my Cradily, I still have super effective Acid, as well as super effective Rock Tomb to throw into them. I can go for that Rock Tomb here. They're on Energy Ball as well. Interesting moveset, so probably Energy Ball and Aerial Ace on this Pokemon. Rock Tomb being thrown doesn't quite one-shot them here, but thanks to that debuff, I might even survive their next move, and even if I don't, they're in Aqua Tail range. There's not much this Jump Bluff can do. In comes that Energy Ball. We're able to actually just barely survive there. Acid all the way down, and we're able to take the win. GG to them. Next game, Corviknight up against the opposing Corviknight. I would assume that most Corviknights are going to be running Iron Head, or rather Payback and Air Cutter, although I have seen a couple run Iron Head. I just kind of spoiled it there a little bit. I think this one might be one of them, because they haven't thrown energy just yet. I threw instantly on my Payback. If they swap out, that's going to be able to just kind of telegraph what they're going to be doing here. And yeah, they do swap out with all of that energy, but into a Furret of all things. This is kind of a strange play in my opinion. Furret has no charge attack pressure whatsoever into us, and not only that, but they actually throw instantly against us too. Meaning now, not only is their energy wasted, they're not going to have any energy against my backline. I go for the Payback immediately. I try to chip them down as much as I can, and set up my Cradily to just close out this game against this Furret. I don't know what's in the backline at this point, but Shadow Quagsire is going to be happy once a Flying type, as well as once a Pokemon with Grass type coverage is out of the way. I'm going to just barely go for the Rock Tomb right before their next attack will be reached. Rock Tomb should knock him out. Potentially they'll use a shield if they really want to try to flip this, but no, they do let that go. Probably going to see that Corviknight come right back in. Our opponent here is going to come back in with Corviknight as we did expect, and I'm thinking they're almost certainly on Iron Head with the way they played out that lead matchup. I'm going to shield up this attack here, go for the Rock Tomb, and trip them down as much as I can. Rock Tomb being thrown, this move will not knock them out from this range, but it will debuff their attack stat, as well as potentially put them into a farm down range, and yeah, they instantly throw the next move. Iron Head has already been revealed here. I guess they could bait us, but I would be a little bit surprised to see that. They full send the Iron Head, down goes Cradily. I come in with my Quagsire to get a farm down, but they swap out at the exact same time that I bring in my Quagsire, which means that they have switch-locked themselves in a very bad matchup. Aqua Tail here is not going to be enough to one-shot an Ufisk, but I mean, at this point, these Mud Shots, as well as just one Aqua Tail landing, is going to put them into a range where even my Corviknight could close out this game if it needs to. Mud Bomb not enough to two-shot us. We're already at the next Aqua Tail, almost at a third here in just a second. Quagsire, way too spammy. In comes that Aqua Tail, in comes their final shield, and while this Ufisk would be a bit of a tricky Pokemon for Corviknight to deal with, Sand Attack being super effective against electric types is going to help us out quite a bit in case we need a bit more faster pressure after this. In comes our next Aqua Tail. And while I do think they will survive this move just barely, they're going to be deep into the red, and we're not even in range where a Mud Bomb would knock us out. They swap to Corviknight, we try to catch the move, but they realize it's not going to be enough for them to win the game, and we pick up the win. GG to our opponent. Next matchup is going to be another Shadow Giratina on the lead. We've seen this Pokemon is a little bit tricky for us to face off against here. I could go for a bait potentially with Air Cutter, but if I go for the bait and they call it, that's not great. If I go for the Payback and they no-shield it, that would be amazing for us. So I'm going to just go for the guaranteed play. I'm going to try to get the shields down if possible. I guess I'm lying to you guys. I'm going to go for the bait. I guess we'll see how this is going to play out here. Air Cutter going to get no-shielded. Yeah, I guess I should have full sent there. but it's still fine. I can outpace just a little bit to this next payback. Do we see a shield on this one, or will they try to call a second bait? Payback ends up getting the shield this time, so I guess I played this match about as poorly as I possibly could have. In comes an attack here. Shadow Sneak, once again, not quite enough to knock us out, but Shadow Quagsire is going to come in. While we are only doing resisted charge attack pressure if we go for Aqua Tails, I think they're in Aqua Tail range after these Mud Shots, and I do think the energy lead on my Quagsire could be pretty helpful. They bring in their own Corviknight, and at this point, I'm happy to avoid this on Cradily. Despite Cradily having played into this matchup, I know it is a little bit awkward. They go for an Air Cutter immediately, and I think I might be able to get to 2 Stone Edges before they're going to be able to reach a second Air Cutter, meaning either we'll get a shield or potentially a knockout against this Pokemon. In comes our next Stone Edge here. Our opponent just barely cannot outpace us to this attack. Stone Edge being thrown right now. Do we see a shield, or will our opponent once again try to call a nuke? They call the attack. Down goes Corviknight. Who are we going to see come in at this point? I know Giratina has a bit of HP still left over on it. They might, though, bring in their final Pokemon, and that is exactly what happens. Shadow Fortress comes in. I'm going to call that they're going to try to catch on us here, so I save the energy on Shadow Quagsire. I have an Aqua Tail ready to go, but Giratina has so much HP on it as well. I don't have a great way to finish this thing off with Acid, and my Corviknight is so low on HP as well, but I know there's a Fortress back there. Fortress probably cannot Bug Bite down the rest of my Corviknight at this point. I go for the Rock Tomb. Our opponent lets it go down, and now it's going to be the Shadow Fortress against the world. I have very low HP Pokemon, but I might have just enough HP to potentially reach a move not only with our Cradily, but maybe even our Corviknight. They go for the Rock Tomb. They're trying to get a sneaky knockout. Maybe they thought I'd go for the No Shield on a Sand Tomb, but I need this Rock Tomb to land no matter what. In comes our Corviknight, and if we can outpace to an Air Cutter, we might just have a little chance to win this game. We do reach the move. Our opponent has to No Shield this. I have an Aqua Tail in the back line. They've realized that they let the move go, but while they can knock us out here, I think my Cradily is healthy enough to Acid this all the way down, and I think somehow we're actually going to win this game. Cradily comes in. 2 Acids will be all it takes to knock out that Fortress, and we're able to pick up the win. All right, next matchup, Shadow Kanto Marowak in the lead. A fantastic matchup, not only for Corviknight, but our backline's also pretty good into this Pokemon. We have Grass Knot as well as Aqua Tail, which is super effective into this thing, but they are staying in the lead, which is a little bit interesting. Makes me wonder if in the backline they're a little bit soft to Corviknight. I'm going to go for a payback here to guarantee either a shield or a massive amount of damage. These sand attacks honestly doing quite a bit of work against this Marowak here, and we do see a shield. I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a Bone Club bait, but I don't want to risk it. I'm going to go for the shield here nonetheless. Corviknight will be able to outpace them here to the next attack anyway. Rock Slide going to be thrown. No baits here by our opponent. Good stuff. I'm going to go for the payback, try to knock them out if possible, or draw their second shield. Either way, I'm pretty happy with what Corviknight's done so far in this game. They let that Marowak go down. I am very happy with where we're at right now, but they bring in their own Corviknight. I don't want to give them like a massive farm down or anything, so I swap into my own Cradily. Might be a misplay. Who's to say at this point what they have in the backline? They're building up so much energy. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to force us to throw energy and then they're going to swap out into something else in the back, which is exactly what ends up happening. In comes a Shadow Drapion. Cradily going to outpace just barely to a Rock Tomb. This will do a lot of damage as well as debuff their attack stat. They do let it go down, and at this point, while they can outpace us to 2 crunches here, they actually don't throw the moves as early as they should. I get the CMP on the Rock Tomb, which means at this point, not only will I either double debuff this Drapion and knock him out, or potentially I'll just draw their final shield. Either way, I'm in a pretty comfortable position here. Down goes their final shield. 1 more sand attack plus an Air Cutter to knock out this Drapion on the combo play, and we're able to knock out so much energy from this Pokemon. They can bring in their own Corviknight, but at this point, Shadow Quagsire is going to have more than enough HP in the bank to win this game. They're going to have to go for a payback to knock out my Corviknight as well. They actually opt for the Air Cutter, which is probably a smart play. They can go for a sand attack down against us if they want to, but it doesn't really matter. Just 1 Aqua Tail from our Quagsire is enough, and they're not going to one-shot Quagsire either with the move. And I mean, we still have a shield, so at this point, they're in an uphill battle. Quagsire comes in, and they immediately go for a charge attack. I think our one lose condition is if they go for an Air Cutter bait, I shield it, they get a boost, and then somehow I lose the game that way. So we no-shield, they do payback. But at this point, we have the Aqua Tail ready to go. I can shield this attack up just in case they do nuke us, which they actually do go for the payback there. Aqua Tail should be more than enough to knock out this Corviknight from this range. It will be able to close out this game and take us the match. GG there to our opponent. Very fun match. All right, next game, Corviknight up against a Digger's Beam, a Pokemon that we don't have a lot of play into with this Pokemon. It's actually sad how bad of a matchup it is because we only do 1 damage per sand attack against this Pokemon, so it just is basically a hard counter to Corviknight. They go for a Scorching Sands. They're staying in here for just a second. Hopefully no debuff comes through. Of course, they get that attack drop here. I'm so happy that next season that debuff chance is getting lowered. It's kind of a stupid thing to give a bulky Pokemon a debuffing move. I guess says the Cradily user, right? But I mean, either way, happy that it will be at least fine-tuned a little bit. In comes their next Scorching Sands. This attack, if it double debuffs me, will make it so my next Grass Knot does not knock him out, and I shouldn't have said anything, because that's exactly what happens here. Grass Knot number 2 gonna be thrown. Thanks to their double debuffs to my attack stat, though, they will be able to survive this, go for a Fire Punch, knock me out, and put us in a very uncomfortable position. But I think at this point, while we will get knocked out here, we'll get a nice mudshot down with our Shadow Quagsire. While I will reveal my full team, I'm hoping that once the Stinger Speed is down, maybe Corviknight's going to have a little bit more play. It can reach a charge attack here, but I'm almost certain that's just going to be a Fire Punch into our Shadow Quagsire. We should be able to survive, go for the farm down, have a lot of energy, and see who ends up coming in. In comes a Golisopod, and I'm just hoping at this point that they shield up my Aqua Tail bait. I'm trying our best here to make it so my Quagsire can have some play in this matchup. Fury Cutters are shredding through my HP right now. They go for the Aqua Jet or maybe an X-Scissor. I would assume an Aqua Jet just in case I went for a catch. I guess that is the more efficient move either way. So yeah, Aqua Jet obviously being thrown there. And in comes an Aqua Tail. Once again, do I get the double bait or will they call this move? Aqua Tail does in fact get that shield here. In comes our next Stone Edge with a CMP us, meaning unfortunately we do have to use our final shield or else this Pokemon would be a little bit awkward for our Corviknight to deal with. I go for the Stone Edge. This should one-shot at this point though. Luckily no catch to be had by our opponent, and as long as our Corviknight has play in the backline, we might have a chance. It's gonna be a Jellicent, and at this point I'm thinking with Payback we actually have a pretty good shot at winning this game. Payback, while it is gonna be super effective here, it's non-stab, there's a chance they can survive the move, but with how spammy I think Air Cutter is at this point, there's a chance I can outpace them before they get to their next Shadow Ball. I might be able to go for a Payback and an Air Cutter before they're able to knock us out. Payback does a ridiculous amount of damage, but we actually just outpace the Air Cutter before they can even reach the next move. This should knock him out. Corviknight able to close out this backline here, taking us the win against one of the worst seeds that we could see. Finishing off the day with a 4-1 set and a Hone Edge encounter. Love to see that. We're going to be able to have quite a bit of climbing done with this team. I think we had like a 75% win rate, getting us to a new season high here. Let's see what it gets us up to in just a second. I know at this point, Corviknight, well, I don't think it's going to be the best Pokemon in the entire meta. It is so solid now, actually having real pacing, having the chance to boost your attack stat. It is, honestly, I like it. It's odd to say, because I think that Air Cutter is a pretty bad move. But Corviknight with Sand Attack is so spammy, and now being able to run Payback as a coverage move, saying you don't need the flying type damage from Sky Attack or the bait move of Iron Head, it makes it a much more interesting Pokemon. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.